That's how I have to do it. How's it going, everybody? It is Pilot Flame. It is early in the morning. We are here for the deadline stream for Game Week 4. How's everybody doing? Jankson Man, how's it going? We are here, and we are back for the last game week before the first international break. International football kind of sucks, to be perfectly honest, but they are insisting on playing it, so we will just have to hope that our players don't get injured on that. But we do have a game week to talk about. So things we're going to discuss today is the effect of the how the Everton midfield being weakened potentially could weaken Everton's overall play. We're also going to be talking about Sadio Mane, who's been tested positive, so he won't be involved in this game week. And we're also going to talk about what to do with players that are either like getting injured or they're testing positive, so they have to quarantine, and they're a little bit they're cheaper assets, as it were. So like Foden is one of them, or players that are just going down in price that are very cheap in general. Yeah, so let's get into it. I would also like to give a huge thank you to Swaz Chipper for following. Much appreciated. Morning, Mono. How are you all doing? How is everyone doing? So, that is my current team up on the screen. So, thoughts on captaining Sterling versus Jimmy? I like Sterling better. I mentioned it in my buy, hold, sell, as well as my Pep Roulette video, that I think that Sterling away from home is just unrivaled in City's team. However, one change that I would like Pep to make, but I don't think he'll do it, is put Foden in the false 9 role and leave Sterling out on the left, because I think Foden's very good at like dropping off and linking up play and creating space, and has more spatial awareness in the center of the pitch, whereas Sterling doesn't. So I would like to see that, and if he does that, then it's captaining Sterling. But I think Sterling's going to be good regardless, because of just how much space Leeds will give City. And if City are on the game, that could end up being like a 4-3 shootout or something. Salah or KDB captained? Well, that actually brings us on to our first topic, so I'll kind of segue this in. So Mane is out because he has to self-isolate, just like Thiago, for Liverpool, which means that all of the play is going to go straight through Salah, pretty much. Or it's going to be into Robertson. Jota's just going to hold the ball up, give it to Robertson. Robertson's going to swing the ball across towards Firmino and Salah. Or the ball's going to go to Trent, he's going to give it to Salah, and then Salah's going to run in, and he's just going to get the ball both ways, basically. There's going to be no, well, not that I can see, any real way for Liverpool to kind of attack on the left-hand side. Like, Jota's not the type of player to just, like, sprint past 6 players and do it all himself. He needs, some kind of help, where Salah can definitely sprint past a few players. So with Mane out, and in away fixtures, when Mane has been out, Salah's done very well FPL-wise. So with that being said, I think that Salah could potentially be better than the City players. Although I still think the City players will do well as well. It's just a matter of how much better are each of them going to do. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, Aston Villa's been good defensively. They've got Emi Martinez in goal. They've got the new guy, Cash, in at right back. They've got Konsa and Mings playing in there. They've looked good defensively. Well, when you actually look at who they've played, it's not that impressive, really. They've played Fulham, who could have potentially had a few half chances, but could have scored. And then they also played Sheffield United, who basically didn't have a striker. And they had a man sent off. So, not great in terms of opposition. Yes, they did keep the clean sheets. They did well to keep the clean sheets, sure. But they're up against Liverpool. Liverpool are completely different. Even without Mane, Jota looks like he's come in and done well. Firmino will be back in the team. They're going to have Wijnaldum back in there. They're going to have Fabinho, Van Dijk, Robertson, Trent. Like, they can't deal with all these players, in my opinion. Yes, they'll probably set up, to be a bit more defensive, but I think that Liverpool will find a way in. Cash is also a bit on the reckless side in terms of like his tackling. And if he's on an early yellow or something like that, I can also see him giving away a penalty potentially. Which is why that if I had KDB, I would still probably captain Salah. That's just me personally. But I think both are very viable options. Salah is going to be more explosive than KDB in terms of like how many points he could potentially rack up. Like if Liverpool get a goal first 5 minutes and it's Salah, you can expect him to potentially go on to get like brace, hat trick, maybe something like that. Whereas if KDB scores the first penalty, let's say City get a penalty hypothetically, right? And he's not going to go on and score a hat trick most likely. Yeah, he might get a free kick. Yeah, he might get one from the edge of the box. Yeah, he might end up with a brace, but it's very rare. I'd probably see more likely to see KDB go on to get, goal, double assist or something if he scores a penalty in the opening few minutes or something like that. So short in the middle there is I think Salah just barely over KDB, but I think they're both viable options. Zaka, there's a lot of K's and A's. Jimenez or Rodriguez for the captain. I think Jimenez, and that's just because if anyone's going to score versus Wolves, it's going to be Jimenez. The only thing with Jimenez is that with his captaincy, you're probably like, in most cases, you're probably expecting no more than 9 points from him, or 18 with the captaincy. And that's simply because Jimenez doesn't, score crazily high. He only had, I believe it was 3 double-digit goals last season. He's a guy who just scores, gets his 3 bonus because he gets the one chance, puts it away, off you go. Now, that being said, Fulham are very bad at conceding chances. They're very bad at conceding big chances. And I think that they can give away a penalty and a couple of big chances. Could end up with a Jimenez, double-digit hole. But we'll have to see. But again, Wolves don't score in droves, as it were. They don't score in crazy, bunches of goals. They're not going to be scoring 3, 4, 5 goals a game. It's going to be probably like 2 is like their comfort zone. Which I probably think it'll end up being I think I predicted that as a scoreline of 2-0. So, but we'll have to see. Could be spread across the front line. If Podence is in there, then he could be a threat in the box. Sometimes even making runs past Jimenez. And then also you have the likes of Neto, who looked okay. Traore is probably going to play in the front line now, so he's another option. It all depends on how they set up. McCarthy, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Justin Walker-Peters, Salah, KDB, Barnes, St. Maximin, Werner, DCL Adams. Would you play Doherty or St. Max this week? Or transfer Doherty to St. Max for -4 for Click or Robertson? I would get rid of Doherty. I think he's more of a priority to get rid of personally. Can he get an attacking return versus United? Yeah, he could. But Spurs defensively don't excite me at all. Unless Jose Mourinho changes his system to a back 3 with wing backs, then I don't see them potentially changing defensively they're going to be quite weak. They're going to let Man United have the ball, and when you let Man United have the ball, they have players that can take long shots after just like doing a quick shift and shooting. They're also very good at winning penalties when they're on their day. They're also very good at scoring penalties because Bruno Fernandes. There's been a lot of talk about that too. So, although I don't think you have to make that transfer, mainly because if St. Maximin is back, I mean, you could potentially play St. Maximin for one more week. He is versus Burnley though, so just think that he's not going to be getting like fouled in transition. It's going to be more of a prevention strategy from Burnley, and they have been quite weak at the back, so St. Maximin might not be a bad shout if he's fit. But there was some potential speculation from Bruce in his press conference. So, what's his flag in FPL? Let's see. Saint Maximin says he's still a doubt, but if he was fit, I'm not sure the exact words of Bruce. But if he has an inclination that he could play, I would say potentially you could keep Saint Maximin. But you could also easily just take Doherty out and start Robertson and just play 4-3-3. I do think that with in regards to penalties, actually that's one of the things I forgot to mention as well. They are being more lenient apparently with the handball rule. So basically what they said was that the Eric Dyer one would still be a penalty just because his arm was above his head and it was outstretched. But like the one I believe it was the Crystal Palace guy, since his hands were down by his side for the most part, they are not going to be, or they probably won't be calling that. So we'll have to see on that regard. But I do think that if things keep continuing the way they go, then you just get a team full of penalty takers, and that's kind of boring, but is what it is. Doherty to Coleman. Yeah, that's a good shout too. I like that move as well. Because you save 0.9 on that, close to $1 million, and then you can use that 0.9 to. There's no one in the real 6.5 million mark. See, this is my problem with unless you have money in the bank, you can't really get anyone meaningful in. Like, you already have Barnes, so like you'd have to go again for space on it, Jack Grealish or Zaha, but you need a little bit extra money to do so. And with Robertson and Trent, they're like unrivaled, like in that price bracket in terms of how many points they're gonna get. Like, I think there was I think it was FPL Black Box, Mark Southerners and Az, they were talking about when Ivanovic was at his pomp, and he was like the fullback to have in your FPL team, in that Chelsea side. And people were reminiscing because he's going back to West Brom and talking about, oh, look how good he was and all this sort of stuff. I think the most he got was like 170 points. And when you think about that, the cheaper defenders, the 5 million defenders, like now, that's probably just going to be a baseline. So the likes of Castagne, the likes of Reece James, the likes of Luca Digne, they're probably all going to end up with like 10 assists by the end of the season. Probably. Maybe you think they get a goal or two in them as well. Then you're looking at 180 point seasons. So I think it's just with that, in that price bracket, Robertson, Like, is there any, you know, trying to figure out the phrasing for it. Is there anyone that can rival that price bracket? You know, is anyone at 7 million gonna be able to be like at the end of the season? Yeah, I have similar points to Andy Robertson. Probably not. I mean, if you look at the historics, 181 points, 213 points. You know, last season Robertson had the same amount of assists and goals scored, but he had 7 less clean sheets. So if Liverpool keep a clean sheet 1 and 3, you know, you're looking at a similar-ish points total around the 180 mark, but except if his attacking output's higher, then it's potentially even better. McCarthy, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Doherty, KDB, Bruno, James, Burke, Mitro, Adams, and Jimmy. Who would you captain in that? Probably De Bruyne. Although there is an outside shout for Bruno Fernandes, but again, against a Mourinho team, you're probably not going to get too much offensively. It's very rare. I think De Bruyne is the safe one. No, I say safe, and that's strictly because if De Bruyne does do well, you have him in your team and you didn't captain him, you could be looking at a red arrow. And with United's form, I wouldn't risk it. Jimenez is a good shout, but again, he's not going to be scoring, points, points on points on points. I wouldn't think, even though it is Fulham. But yeah, I think it's just you go with the player that's going to be, well owned typically. You go with the player that has arguably just as good of a fixture, and you go with the player that's team is going to score the most points, basically. Who do you think is going to get the most points in any of the fixtures? I would probably say the likelihood is that the Fulham game is probably going to be around like a 2-0 in favor of Wolves, probably, assuming Wolves are back to their normal. Leeds versus Man City is probably going to end up in a similar style of game as the Liverpool versus Leeds game was, which ended up being a 4-3. So if you can imagine what City players could do well in that, which I'm a bit worried about the game. But I think that if they play the way they did versus Leicester, they'll lose. So we'll have to see on that front. What do you think about everyone jumping on Castagne? Well, speaking of Castagne, the 2 transfers that we made this week was that we took out Timo Werner for Danny Ings, and we took out Doherty for Castagne. Now the reason, I'll go through my reasoning for Ings first, and then we'll come back to Castagne. So when looking at Danny Ings' fixtures, people say, oh, Danny Ings has a worse run-in than Jimenez. But does he really? So we'll take all the way up until the end of December. So let's go fixture one by one. Can Danny Ings score versus West Brom? Of course he can. Can Danny Ings score versus Chelsea? Yeah, Chelsea still haven't... They're not going to be fully gelled defensively. Thiago Silva has shown that, he's still culpable of mistakes. The new goalkeeper looks pretty good. But Chilwell's not great defensively. Neither is Reece James. And who knows who the centre back's going to be. So I think Ings can score there. Ings can score versus Everton because Everton have Pickford in goal, who's useless. Aston Villa are going to try to, retain as much of the ball as possible. Yes, they'll be solid defensively. I think this could potentially be tricky, but I still see Southampton scoring in this one. Newcastle's bad, so, yep, he could score in that. Wolves away, if Wolves by this time are defensively sound, I think this is actually the hardest game to score for Southampton because they play so many bodies in the way that it's going to be difficult for Danny Ings. Man United at home, he scored against them last time. Brighton away, Brighton like to play out from the back. Brighton like to be aggressive, so he can definitely score there. Sheffield United at home, he can definitely score there. Arsenal away, again, Arsenal have shown that they're defensively more solid, but Southampton typically give Arsenal trouble historically. Um, and Danny Ings is very good. He's like Vardy in a sense. Like he's always in and around the action when they need him most. And versus the top 6 teams, he's quite good. Man City at home, again, their defense is not good at all. Fulham away, anyone can score against Fulham. West Ham, they're still culpable at the back. So I think literally the toughest fixture probably overall is the Wolves away fixture if Wolves are solid, and maybe Arsenal away could be troublesome. But again, City and Southampton will go back and forward. Again, City lost to Southampton last season, albeit it was away from home, but still. And then if we look at Jimenez, so I'll use Podence because he has the same fixtures. So Fulham at home, obviously great fixture. Leeds away, good. Newcastle, good. Crystal Palace could be a bit tricky, potentially, even though it is at home. It just depends on how Wolves attacking wise are there, but could be tricky. I still think it's a very good fixture. Leicester away, probably, Wolves has something in that. Southampton at home, should be fine. Arsenal away, usually a good fixture for Wolves. Liverpool away, that could be tricky. Aston Villa home should be fine. Chelsea at home should be fine. Burnley away could be tricky. Spurs at home could be tricky. United away could be okay. But if you think about it, teams that play like low blocks, so Spurs will, Burnley will, Aston Villa probably will, Crystal Palace will. Those are tricky. Southampton can always create something, whereas I don't see Wolves doing that. They have to basically rely on the genius of Matinho or just like getting in behind teams, and not every team's going to let you get in behind, especially like Burnley, Spurs. Well, I say Spurs, but a Mourinho team typically is very solid defensively for the most part. And then Castagne, again, up until Christmas time, West Ham at home can get a clean sheet in attack and return. Same with Aston Villa. Arsenal away, okay, he might not keep a clean sheet, but I think that Leicester will have the majority of the ball here, and he could always potentially create something here. Leeds away, yeah, he might not keep a clean sheet, but he could get an attack and return. Wolves at home, he could keep a clean sheet there. The only difficult one is Liverpool away. That's obviously going to be tricky. Fulham at home, good. Sheffield United away. Well, Sheffield United will have to see how they get on, but again, they haven't been scoring, so I have to only go on what I've seen so far. Brighton at home, should be fine. Everton at home, could be a bit difficult. Spurs away, Leicester should have no problems there. United at home, could be a bit tricky. And then Crystal Palace away, so for the most part, he's going to be quite good. And even the Liverpool away game, you could still expect a potential return for attacking wise. And the thing is with Castagne, the one nice thing about him is that he's playing on the right now. And that's mainly because I think that Justin prefers the left-hand side. But when Pereira comes in, Castagne will go back over to the left-hand side because he can play both left or right, fullback or wingback. He's basically both-footed, and I think that's why people are going for him. Leicester look a bit more composed. They know what to do versus the big teams. They're just going to go out there and frustrate them. And I think Brendan Rodgers has them well drilled. Whether they keep up that intensity, whether they keep up that momentum, we'll have to see. But it could be a wait and see for some, but I think the fixtures are good enough, and the player has shown good enough in game, as it were. The eye test that he could, on any day, get an assist. Any day he could pop up in the box. Like he gets forward quite a lot, and his assist for Vardy in the City game, where Vardy kind of just chopped the ball down into the ground and bounced it over Ederson with his back. He's side of his heel, back of his heel, was quite good. I took the -4. Doherty gone, Robbo in. I think that was a wise decision, personally. That being said, watch Doherty keep a clean sheet versus United in a boring 0-0, and Robertson concedes first 2 minutes of the game and then doesn't get an attack in return. That's gonna happen every now and again, but I think it's better, that way. I just think Spurs defensively just don't look good. Spurs attack could be better because it depends on how they play. So if Mourinho, I think Mourinho's best formation long term is potentially either a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. So similar setup to Wolves. So what you can do is you can play a back three with he's going to play Dyer because for whatever reason he'll play Dyer. One other center back, and then Davies. Then you have Reguilon as left wing back, Doherty as right wing back. You play two workman-like midfielders in like Højbjerg plus Lo Celso or Sissoko or somebody of that nature, or Harry Winks. And then you have a three up front, so you have Son, Kane, Bale, or he plays like Sissoko and Winks to go a bit more defensive, plays Lo Celso in like the 10, and then plays Son and Kane or Bale and Kane, depending on who's available. And then he can go from there. Let's see. Sterling versus Salah captain. I would say Sterling, but only just. Even though I think that Salah's a lot lower on people's radars because they're saying, oh, well, Aston Villa did quite good. I mean, if you look at Aston Villa played against Sheffield United and Fulham. Like, they haven't really been tested by anyone. Yes, their defense improved with Martinez coming in, but it's not that much improved, is it? It's not that much improved to where it's a Liverpool team with Jota, Firmino, Salah, Trent, Robertson, Van Dijk, Gomez, all these, really good players and good at attacking output are going to suffer versus Aston Villa. I don't see it happening personally. Although last season, they did struggle. It ended up being like a comfortable 2-0 in the end, but they still had a little bit of, trouble breaking them down. That's not going to be probably too much of a problem. Liverpool could end up being one-dimensional, but again, I still think that Aston Villa are being flattered a bit too much in terms of their defense. They're playing against a team that is relegation fodder, most likely in Fulham, and they're playing against a team that was down to 10 men within the opening, what was it, a few minutes or whatever it was. I don't even know when he got sent off. But that didn't have a striker, so I copied your team, Hasidic. Well, there's a chance, but I didn't look at your team. But technically, anyone who joins on my stream could copy mine. Only United fan would describe Liverpool as one-dimensional. Well, I say one-dimensional. It's not necessarily. It's probably the wrong word to say it. Focused, I would say. The attack is focused, most likely. Into Salah now, whereas before they have. So if I'm just think of it in terms of like if I'm Fabinho or if I'm Jordan Henderson or I'm Thiago or I'm Wijnaldum, and I'm in the center midfield, and both Mane and Salah are open. In logical sense, you probably say that Mane and Salah have a 50-50 chance of receiving the ball, right? Whereas if I'm Fabinho, Wijnaldum, or one of these midfielders, and you see Jota and Salah, if Jota's open and Salah's open, who do you think's going to get the ball? probably Salah. And I would say that's probably like an 80% chance that he's going to get the ball over Jota. Now, if Jota was as good of a caliber player as Mane is, which he could potentially still be, and he hasn't been at the club very long either, then I would say you would see him get more of the ball. That being said, maybe Klopp goes into this game thinking, hey, they think we're going to play it the majority of the ball to Salah. We're actually going to utilize Jota a lot more and almost as evenly as we would if Mane was there. That's a possibility, which could throw Aston Villa for a loop, and we could see Jota doing quite well. But again, it's all down to tactics and stuff. Don't go the way of Roy Keane, you'll get the wrath of Klopp. No, I think Roy Keane was actually saying, I think there was a bit of a breakup in like the call in terms of what was actually like fed into Klopp's headset, or like there was a breakdown there. Roy Keane was saying that there were sloppy moments, but overall Liverpool played very well. And that even if you can get away with those sloppy moments and still win 3-1 pretty comfortably and look dominant pretty much the whole game, that's what makes you, Premier League champions, right? Those games where sometimes you know, a couple of things don't go your way, but you get a bit of good fortune, or you grind out a result, any of these sorts of things. That's what makes teams Premier League champions. And I think Liverpool definitely has that. That's based on team chemistry and trust that will build as they know each other. Jota played awesome with them. Yeah, exactly. So if let's say I'm Dean Smith, Aston Villa's manager, right? And I'm looking and I'm thinking, okay, who do I have to worry about when it comes to Liverpool's team? So you have to say, okay, we have to cut Trent off before he makes his deep cross. We have to stop Robertson marauding forward. We have to be wary of Salah and his positioning. We have to watch the pockets of space that Firmino picks up. And we have to be worried about their midfield three pressing us and stealing the ball off us. And we have to see if we can break their high line when we do get the ball, because Van Dijk and Gomez, or whoever the centre-back pairing is going to be, are going to play quite high. Right? All of those things are more of a consideration than what Jota is for now, right? Yes, he'll be known, or he'll know that Mane is out. He'll know that Jota's gonna, him or Origi, probably Jota though, is gonna be the player out on the left. But in terms of like a priority list, I named like 4 or 5 things there that are probably more of a worry, or more of a concern, or more of a formulation around a game plan that you have to think about before you think Jota's a threat. I mean, yes, he is. But why is he a threat? So he's a threat because he can link up with Robertson, but Robertson is the threat there, because Robertson can get into the box, and he can score, clearly. He puts in great deliveries, and Jota's going to be the pass before the assist, as it were. I can see Jota getting the ball, kind of standing up a man. Robertson marauds in behind. Jota plays him in. Robertson swings it across, and then somebody puts it in the net. I can see that happening. Whether Aston Villa are going to be more defensively compact, we'll have to see. That's how I see kind of how it playing out. Whereas Trent will be swinging the balls in from deep. Jota will be coming in at the back post. Robertson will be coming in at the back post. Salah will be at the near post, or receiving passes and just getting in behind in that regard. Firmino will drop off, linking up play as normal. Yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Prediction on top goal scorer this season. I think it's going to be Timo Werner still. Because there's times where in his... if he's played correctly. So the reasoning for that is, I think that we haven't seen Chelsea with their full lineup. We haven't seen them with Pulisic out on the left, Ziyech out on the right, Havertz through the middle, Werner at the number 9, Kovacic and Conte as their, double pivot in the 4-2-3-1, Chilwell left back, Reece James right back, Thiago Silva +1 defender, and then Mendy in goal. I think that with those, with that lineup, they could potentially do a lot of damage. Now, I think this all stems on a couple of things. One, is Timo Werner going to play as well as he did in the Bundesliga through the middle in that style of system? Actually, there's 3 things. 2, can Pulisic stay fit, which you just mentioned? Because they need players that can drive with the ball to allow Werner to pick up space that defenders have to move out of in order to go deal with Pulisic or Kovacic, or have to press Ziyech before he puts in a delivery, all these sorts of things. So, yeah. I took Werner out as well, Hasidic, for Ings, because I think that, Lampard mentioned that Pulisic's probably be on the bench, but again, that's still not enough for me to be like, okay, he's going to do damage this week. I mean, he could, but again, Werner's the type of player that likes to get in behind. He likes to have some space in behind to run onto, that sort of stuff. Whereas Palace isn't going to give him that. So that's kind of a problem. He's most likely also going to play out on the left, which of 9.5 or now 9.4. He may have dropped down to 9.3 by now. I don't know. Forward, that's only got an assist. Might not even be on penalties because we don't know yet. That's playing out on the left-hand side. He's playing very wide, especially in the Carabao Cup, even though he did score. And Werner typically scores in very, very long streaks. So Werner can go 8 games without scoring. I think there was a stat where it's like he went like 7 or 8 games without scoring, and then he scored 1. And then in the next 9 games after that, he scored like 14 and assisted 7 or something like that. So we'll have to see on that front. But yeah, I think Pulisic is the key, and Pulisic is placed on the left. So we'll have to see. But who am I? I'm not Lampard, so I can't make that decision. Hey Hazard, how's it going? Just got on the stream. I wildcarded this week with McCarthy, Castagne, Robertson, Mahrez captain. Ooh, I like it. Zaha, Salah, De Bruyne, Bamford, DCL, and Jimenez. I think that is a very good team. I like that team quite a lot, although I think you're missing a defender in there somewhere. I only see 2 defenders and a goalkeeper, Castagne, Robertson. I see Mahrez, Zaha, Salah, De Bruyne, which are 4 midfielders, Bamford, DCL, and Jimenez. So you're missing 1 defender. I don't know who the last defender is, but that team looks pretty good. Mahrez captain is very interesting. He is a risk, though, because if Bernardo Silva is fully fit... Lamptey. Oh, well, there you go. Team's looking good. Team is looking good. There is a chance. So this is in my Pep Roulette video, basically what I said was I think that there's only 2 players that I think Pep potentially trusts to play in a midfield 3. So like how David Silva, KDB, and Fernandinho got to play. Like with the 2 like Metsala type attacking midfielders, and then the kind of the sitter, the shielder, the kind of the down and dirty type DM defender in Fernandinho, and it's on that left hand like part of the 3, right? So David Silva was there, so he was a left-footed player, very good at linking up play, liked to make runs in around the corner, very good at pressing the ball, very good at nicking the ball off players, taking a couple of touches, and then laying in a through ball. There's only 2 players I think on City that can do that. Based on that current like set of details. One of them is Bernardo Silva, who if he's fully fit, I've seen him play in the midfield 3. He's left-footed. He's got Silva in his name, so it's kind of already meant for him. So I think he's possibly one of those, but I think his best position is out on the right-hand side. The other player that I think should be playing there is Phil Foden. Now, this is why I also think that Phil Foden could be very good in the false nine role. It's because he's very good at linking up play. He's a lot better than Sterling is. He has more spatial awareness in central areas. Like I see when Foden's in between, so like I call it in between the lines. So the edges of the 18. If you drew like just a strip down the field from each side of the 18 down the field, that space all the way down the field, Foden is very good in that area. Where Sterling and Mahrez, they're much better on the outsides of that strip. They're very good at making from runs outwards and in, especially in behind. Yes, Sterling can hold up the ball, but I think you don't. In order to play false nine, you don't really want to be sitting there and arm on a defender, back towards goal. False nine is all about dropping in, linking up play, making runs in and around the corner, quick 1-2s, all that sort of stuff. And I think the better player to do that with is Foden. I think Mahrez could also do it as well, but I think his attributes are better 1v1 versus a defender. Same with Sterling. Sterling likes to get in behind defenders, likes to stand defenders up 1v1, likes a fullback to go in around the corner as well, out on an angle. And Sterling coming in from the left, in a basically across the pitch, in that way, or making like kind of tailored runs and then darting in behind. That's where Sterling's at his best. Whereas Bernardo Silva and Foden are very good in central areas. Foden more so than Bernardo, because Bernardo can play off the right as well, because he's left-footed. But I think that I would like to see Foden either in the false nine or Foden in a midfield three. And I think that Pep should go with a more attacking option, because if you play, so my predicted lineup was, I think that he'll play Mahrez out on the right, he'll play Foden out on the left, he'll play Sterling as the false nine. He'll then go with De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, and Fernandinho as a midfield three, is because all of those 6 players are very good at pressing the ball. And with Leeds, you have to basically match press for press. You cannot let them start chaining passes together, because just like City, if you let them chain passes together, they'll just pass you to death, and then they'll end up scoring a one-touch finish. So I think that that's where they have to go in that regard. But my ideal lineup for City would be Foden plays the false nine rather than playing out on the left. Sterling plays out on the left, Mahrez playing out on the right, so just a swap of roles there. Bernardo Silva in the midfield three, with De Bruyne, and then Fernandinho. Because I think Rodri is just kind of a liability in terms of defense. Yes, he's a very good capable passer of the ball. He's very Busquets-esque, but except without the Busquets ability to break up play and defend and press in that regard. So Mahrez captain. Oh yeah, yep, that looks. I like that a lot. It's a differential pick. He's more likely to be more explosive than De Bruyne. He actually had more points per game. I mentioned that as well in one of my videos. He had more points per game for the minutes that he played than De Bruyne did last season, and De Bruyne had a ridiculous season. So I liked what I saw last week, despite City losing. Yeah, I mean, there's many different ways you can kind of look at City. So you can say that City can score 5 against any team that they play against, even Liverpool, even Burnley, who will literally put 11 men in the net to stop you from scoring. But I just don't like Sterling. I think Sterling's best, like if you had to name off like Sterling's best 3 attributes, you would say it's his pace, specifically to get in behind. It's his late arrival on the back post to get that one-touch finish, so like his positional awareness. And his kind of nous or ability to like constantly make runs. And all of those are attributes that you would like of a left inside or right inside forward or left winger or right winger. He's also very good at crossing the ball with his weaker foot as well. And I think that's where you want him to to play out on the left. I think just a false nine, you kind of just take all of his best attributes and say, well, you're not going to be using those today, because he's going to have to make runs in behind between two defenders, which he doesn't necessarily like to do. He is a bit on the smaller side. He can hold his own. I've seen him shield the ball when he wants to, but again, that's not what you want Sterling to be doing, which is why I think Jesus or Aguero is so important, because they're smaller guys that link up the play well, and they know how to get in behind and create space and make runs through the center. That's where you want them to be. But yeah. Well, in the interest of my accumulator, I hope Leeds win. I do too. It would be very interesting. And also, remember, it's going to be the student versus the master. So Pep Guardiola thinks that the best manager in the world that he's ever spoken to is Bielsa. They both come from the same school of thought. The La Masia, or La Masia, is that how you pronounce it? Basically the Barcelona youth system in terms of that train of thought. So, and I think that he's definitely capable. If City aren't 100% on the game, even if they're at 95%, they can get battered by Leeds. Yes, they don't have Harrison, but they'll just bring in Alioski, who is very threatening going forward. He doesn't have as good of a delivery as Harrison does, but if Bamford keeps putting away these low percentage chances, which I think he still can, then I don't see why Leeds can't win. I mean, they're very high intensity, which we've seen City be less and less of over the end of last season and the start of this season. And we know Leeds are going to be, super fit. I think Jonty on the Scoutcast said they go through a training system, or one of the days of their training, they play this is something called Murder Bowl or something that Bielsa has them go through, and we can only imagine what that's like. So these guys are super fit, and if City aren't careful, if you have Rodri diddly-dallying on the ball, which I hope he doesn't play, because I think Rodri, yes, is a very good pass of the ball when he's given time and space, but he doesn't know how to press well like Fernandinho does in that central midfield, position. He's often caught out. He's not very fast. And you need pace. That's why I would say it should be better for Pep to go with a more attacking lineup versus Leeds. You have to fight fire with fire. You have to make it so that when Leeds get the ball, you have to press them, steal the ball off them, and get them in transition where they're vulnerable. Leeds will be looking to do the exact same thing to City, because that's City's weakness as well. If City lose the ball in certain areas, you're in on their back four, which in most cases you would take your chances in that, because their back four, especially their fullbacks, are very culpable in mistakes, which we saw in the Leicester game. And their center backs haven't been settled. Yes, Laporte's coming back in, and I expect him to start, but it's the right center back that could be, a problem for them. Garcia's mind is elsewhere in Barcelona, because that's where he's going to be going at the end of the season, almost certainly. Stones is injured. They've sold Otamendi. If they play Fernandinho there, he's just too slow, and he can't make it the same rash challenges as he would do, or the tactical fouls that he would do at center back that he can do in central midfield. And Ruben Diaz has just come in, who 1v1 defending in when he played in Benfica wasn't actually all that. So, and that's just based off the numbers that people are throwing about. I don't claim to watch the Portuguese league at all. These are just numbers that I've seen Tifo discuss. So, but Aguero and Jesus are injured, right? Wouldn't Mahrez be the default choice there? No. With Jesus and Mahrez injured, playing through the middle typically is Sterling in the false nine. And I think that Mahrez, I think Foden should play there, but I don't think Pep will play them there. He'll play Mahrez one side, Foden the other, and Sterling through the middle, even though I think the attribute-wise, I think you want to... So if you had to pick two out of those three players to play them in their best position, who would you play? I would put Sterling and Mahrez every day of the week in their best position because they add more value out on the left and right. If you sacrifice a little bit of Foden's, play, whereas if you play Mahrez and Foden out on the wings, you're taking arguably your best player in that front three in Sterling and making him worse, which is not what you should be doing. You should be taking your weakest player there, which is arguably Foden. That's debatable. And, lessening him a little bit, but strengthening your two best players. That's what you want to do. You want to highlight your better players. That's why I think that Aston Villa have every right against Liverpool to think that Salah is going to get a lot of the ball, more so than what he already does today, because Liverpool know that since Mane's out and Jota's a new guy, even though he has gelled quite well and quite seamlessly, which is crazy to just think about based on the way he's played, that Salah is going to be the focal point. Wasn't sure if you were asked this earlier in the stream, but Ings or Jimenez for this game week, and do you think Vardy would be a good long-term prospect? I think Vardy could be an excellent long-term prospect. I think Vardy could be good from now and up until Christmas as well. We mentioned this with Castagne in terms of the tough fixtures. Well, if you look at them attacking wise, can Vardy score versus West Ham? Yep. Can he score versus Aston Villa? Yep. Can he score versus Arsenal? He typically does. Can he score versus Leeds? Yep, they give space in behind. Can he score versus Wolves? If Wolves are back to their best defensively, Vardy might struggle there. Can Vardy score against Liverpool? Yep, because they play a high line. Fulham? Yep. Sheffield United? Yep. Brighton? Yep. Everton? Yep. Spurs? Could be a bit trickier. United? Yep. But all of these teams Vardy could do. I honestly think Crystal Palace, if they're well organized, and Wolves will give Vardy more trouble than Liverpool, Spurs, United, these sorts of teams, these like big six teams, which is crazy to think about. But in terms of Ings versus Jimenez, my transfers this week was Werner out and Doherty out for Castagne and Ings. And the reason I picked Ings, I mentioned it earlier, so if you want to watch it in full, be sure to check out the VOD when I go to put it on YouTube. But basically I looked at the fixtures and I said, which ones can Jimenez score in? So Wolves' playstyle is counter-attacking football through typically the right-hand side with Traore. Although when Johnny plays, they do like to fly forward out on the left, but he's injured for long term, so I don't see that. And Vinagre hasn't impressed. Now, Semedo can change that dimension altogether. But in terms of fixtures that you want to see Jimenez doing well is when his team can counter. So when they won't have as much of the ball and they can counter. Or they can get in behind, just in general. So if we look at the fixtures where that's going to be very easy to do, we can count off which ones aren't. So Fulham, yep, that's fine. Leeds, fine. Newcastle, fine. Crystal Palace, that could be 1. Leicester away, that could be 2. Potentially, probably, I would say, honestly, Crystal Palace is probably going to be more of a struggle than Leicester. Southampton, they can definitely do it. Arsenal, they can still definitely do it. They're still culpable at the back. Liverpool, yes. Aston Villa, yes. Chelsea, probably yes, but they could be better defensively by then. Burnley, going to be a bit tricky. Spurs, could be a bit tricky by then. And Man United, yes. He can get in behind those teams. So I would say Spurs, Burnley, depending on how Leicester set up, Crystal Palace, those 4 could be tricky in terms of just the way Wolves play, just based on a pure play style. Now he can score against all of those teams. He's very, very, very well cultured striker in the league. In terms of Ings, so the way Southampton play is they can hit you on the break. They can still create something through the likes of Ward-Prowse or somebody like that. They can always win a penalty. They're going to play a high line. They're going to press you. So teams that don't handle the press very well, because Wolves don't really press too much. They kind of just sit in a static shape, as it were, and just kind of shift from side to side. Whereas teams that can't deal with the press are going to be very susceptible to Southampton counters. Southampton can create something because Walker-Peters is so high up the pitch that he just gets involved and starts to swing crosses in. So if we look at Ings' fixtures, West Brom conceded the most chances, so wouldn't see why not. Chelsea away, I mean, he could score versus Chelsea. If he could score versus United, if he could score versus, these sorts of teams in the top 6, he can score against anyone, really. And Chelsea, again, they're going to want to try to play a high line. They're going to want to try to press the team, again, that favors Ings. Everton, they're culpable at the back. Aston Villa, Aston Villa players, their midfielders, apart from Grealish, aren't very good when it comes to being pressed. So if they shift the ball to Grealish, then Southampton could find it a bit harder because Grealish will just win fouls. But they could find it troublesome there. Newcastle are terrible into teams that that press well. Wolves, again, this is going to be a matter of can Wolves break versus Southampton? But since it's Wolves away, Southampton might just give them the ball and be like, you break us down, which Southampton are actually quite good when they play, a defensive block. And they don't play as high of a line, which Hasenhüttl has clearly shown that he's willing to adapt. Man United at home, Ings scored against Man United last season. Brighton away, Brighton play a very high line and they like to get forward, so can score there. Sheffield United haven't looked themselves and have O'Connell out for the entire season. So defensively they're a lot weaker. Arsenal, he can score versus Arsenal, no problem. Man City, he can score versus Man City, no problem. And Fulham and West Ham. So if you look at, there's no, I would say that probably the most difficult one is depending on how the Wolves-Southampton game in Gameweek 9 plays out. Ings himself can score against any team, because again, City and Arsenal, I'm still not convinced Arsenal defensively and City defensively has shown their vulnerabilities. And both teams are going to press. So, it's a bit interesting. But that's why I went with Ings, because I think longer term as well, his fixtures are better. Like, I don't see, unless Ings gets injured, or has a massive drop off in form, I don't see him in any of these fixtures. Like me going into it and thinking, yeah, I don't think he's going to score here. Every one of those fixtures, I can look at it and be like, there are reasons which he can score. Whereas Jimenez up until Christmas time, I can see them being like, Jimenez can have a bit of a rough patch, maybe against, in the Christmas period. Maybe Newcastle and Crystal Palace are more organized at the back end of October, and he might struggle. Because again, Southampton can score 2-3 goals, no problem against weaker teams. It's just a matter of how often can they do it. Whereas Wolves, you would probably bet them on being under 2.5 goals pretty much every game. Because Jimenez only got 3 double-digit holes last season. So, we'll have to see. Planning on taking Ings Jimenez out from Malpai after the international break. Okay. Well, I mean, Brighton have looked quite good, so that's possible. Just contemplating the two this game week because of West Brom and Fulham. Well, you only have less than 2 minutes to think about that. But I think both are fine options. I think both will probably score this week. It's just a matter of who has a bigger upside. But yeah, there's 1 minute left, so I'm going to make sure that my team is all sorted here. So we got McCarthy in goal, Trent, Castagne, Robertson, Rodriguez, Fernandez, Salah captain, Podence, who might not play, but we have Burke coming in, Calvert-Lewin, Ings, and Mitrovic. I'm just going to refresh just to be sure. So yeah, and then my bench is pretty self-explanatory, so yeah. I consider captaining Ings, but I think he's already, like, he's only 21% owned, so he's good enough. Jimenez will be around the similar. There's going to be people who have both. But I think that Salah captain, with the fact that Mane is out, Salah has done way better when Mane is out in away fixtures, which helps him out drastically. So, okay, we got a countdown going here. So we got 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time's up. That is the Game Week 4 deadline over. Let's see if it locks me out here. Should do in a second. Mind you, last time it didn't. There we go. This time it actually did it properly. It's locked us out. Please try again later when the updated score/teams are available. So hopefully everyone got their teams in. Hopefully I was helpful. I tried to be. So yeah, that's the Game Week 4 deadline. If you haven't done so already, make sure to give us a follow and subscribe and like and all that good stuff on all of the socials. Links are in the description. SpiderFlame226 on those platforms. I'm going to be putting this VOD up as soon as I get offline here, so if you wanted to catch anything that you may have missed, you can definitely do so. With the international break, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a preview as to the videos that I'm thinking about doing. So we're going to be doing a gaming video tomorrow, as per normal. Tuesday, I have videos set up for Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so it's not going to be a full week of videos this week. We're going to be looking at some value players. We're going to be looking at wild cards for the international break. And then teams to watch. So we do teams to watch once every 4 weeks. And then the following week, we're going to do the preview stream on the Monday. So that's going to be on the 12th. Will be the preview stream. That's going to be 7 p.m. EDT. We've moved those from Fridays. We're going to have the captaincy video, buy, hold, sell, pep roulette. And then I'm not sure if I'm going to do like a lineup announcement video or like a run through my lineup type of thing. And what transfers I'm thinking of, depending, or what transfers I may have made already. We'll have to see. That video is still up for contention as to potentially could be something else. And then the deadline stream as per normal. So the bulk of the videos as normal will come on the week of Game Week 5 for that week. So that'll be the week of the starting of the 11th of October. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the deadline stream for Game Week 4. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and hopefully FPL doesn't put a downer on your weekend. Just remember, it is a game. You base your decisions off of logic, not off emotion. So thank you all for watching, and until the next one, take care.